This turned out to be one of those annoying repair jobs that I never wanted to have to do in the first place. What happened is the door settled and it stopped latching, and I'll show you a close-up of that. But it settled and malfunctioned for two reasons. Reason number one, it was never really hung correctly to begin with. There were just a few finishing nails holding this casing to the stud, and the casing was 5/8 of an inch spaced away from the stud, and that's too far. A few finishing nails isn't going to hold it. The other thing is, we did something I never like to do on a door. I hate hanging things on doors, but we didn't have many options, and we needed a place to store spices, so we put this spice rack in. Everything's a mess now because I pulled the door off and put it back on a couple times. When I pulled that door off, I think it had to be maybe 70 pounds with all this stuff on the rack. Originally, this door had a top hinge and a bottom hinge, and when I installed this spice rack, I installed a middle hinge to help support the extra weight. That was fine. However, this whole side of the casing dropped almost 1/4 of an inch. There was almost a 1/4 inch gap up in here, and this latch, where it hit the striker plate in the casing, was too low to engage. So the door would just, when you close it, it would just snap right back open, and actually it would kind of do that. It wouldn't stay latched. So I had to fix it, and so now I'll show you what I did. The door is nice and square. It hasn't racked at all or settled at all. So that this door doesn't fall out while I'm knocking the pins out, the hinge pins, just hold it in flat. That way, you know, so it can't fall away from the hinges. Ordinarily, I wouldn't suggest using a screwdriver, pounding on a screwdriver with a hammer, but these screwdrivers are steel all the way through, one piece, even to the end there. It's all one piece of steel. And they're actually made just for this purpose. That casing is dead plumb. That's almost dead plumb. It's very acceptable. That side, it's about a 1/4 inch higher, just eyeballing it, than this side. There's a gap here of at least a 1/4 inch. Yep, there's almost a 1/4 inch gap there, out of square. This is out of square. Same thing this way. It's almost, well, that probably is a 1/4 inch out. Over here, where the casing, it seems to be on top of the linoleum. There's also a layer of Luan under here. And it seems like, if anything, this casing might be supported on top of that Luan. Over here, though, I think there's a gap in the Luan, because I can feel a depression there in the linoleum. So this casing is pushing down on it. And I see only a couple small nails here. Now the camera can't see it, but I see only a couple small nails in here. That's why this side is a 1/4 inch lower than that side. I can also see here that this trim is actually slightly higher than the trim across the top. Well, this is all coming off, so I can see what's going on in there and see how well these hinges are supported by the framing. So I can see here there's just a few finishing nails. That's all that's holding this casing to the frame. That one there isn't even penetrating into the stud. But there's no way that these can hold the kind of weight we put on these hinges. And the hinge screws don't penetrate the stud. There's a good 5/8 of an inch gap in there. I'm cutting the nails so I don't damage the wood surface by trying to pull them. My goal here is to raise the right side door casing straight up by about 1/4 of an inch. I'm using this piece of used furring strip as a spacer to put between the casing and the stud, and I've been planing it down, gradually trying to get it to fit perfectly. This is my first test fit. A pair of tapered shims at the bottom will hold the casing up where I want it. Raise this side a little too much. Need to pry it down a little. A little bit. If anything, this side is higher by about 1/16. I can still adjust it down, but this proves I can adjust it to whatever position I need it to be in. Now I just need to continue planing this spacer that I'm going to put in there to a, hopefully, an exact fit. Second try. Third try. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to cut this into thirds so I have a piece to put behind each hinge. Just going to use the level to extend the line straight down from where that nail is, because I'm going to be putting more fasteners in here, including 2 pretty heavy screws in the area of where the hinge will be. This is now pretty much dead level. So I'm going to put a nail in through here, through this spacer into the stud to hold it so it doesn't move up and down. And check it again before I drive it all the way home. That's about perfect. Flip the level around, make sure it's accurate. The level's not perfect. I think we're good though. Let me just check one more thing. Yeah. That's pretty darn good. Still not driving it all the way home. I left this nail head sticking out about 3/16 just in case. Ultimately, it will end up behind this doorstop trim piece that I removed. So when I put that back in, it'll cover the nail head and you won't see it. I always pre-drill in a situation like this. It helps to avoid splitting the wood when you drive the fastener in. I want the screw heads just flush with the surface. There's a gap there. 24 1/8. That's 24 and almost 3/16. That's a touch less than 24. So I cut a piece of scrap from a split board. That's too thick. To exactly 24 inches. Gotta go get some different shims. That way it will span the gap between both sides of the case, and I can still insert a tapered shim to take up that extra 1/8 of an inch, and I can adjust it in and out as needed. So then putting shims between the case and the stud, I can adjust that thickness as well, and I can set that dimension across both sides of the case to exactly where I want it. So I'm setting that bottom width to the same dimension as the top width of the casing. That way it's uniform from top to bottom. However, that casing isn't exactly straight either. So there's still some things I need to deal with. Perfect. Looks like that'll hold it. That's 24 and 1/8 inch. How are we looking at the middle hinge point? It's a little wide. I'm going to see a bow this way, probably. Pretty much perfect. So I planed this down to, it's between 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch thick. I have 3 identical pieces. Put one of them in on the top hinge. I put this one in behind the middle hinge, and that one is a little loose. So I put in a shim in here between the stud and the door casing behind this hinge location, and measured so the width is perfect in comparison to the top measurement, and everything appears to be perfectly plumb. So as far as that shim was driven, and it's a tapered shim, I marked it, and then I actually measured it with a dial caliper, and that's almost 60 thousandths. I found this piece of from a pad, the backer board from a pad, which is 28 thousandths. So doubling this up makes a perfect shim to put back there to fill that small void. A couple thousandths here, give or take, isn't going to make a difference, but so I already put those in there, and now I'm ready to screw it in place. Now I'm going to drive a 2.5 inch screw in. It'll go well more than an inch into the stud. Did I say one? It's flush, and then I'm going to use one to hold the hinge in as well. This needs to be re-drilled at a slight angle so that it'll be sure to hit the stud. And now that this wood is squeezed tightly against the back of the casing, these screws, which extended through the casing, will now not just go into open air on the back. The full length of the screw will be engaged with lumber. Whoops. It's about as perfect as I could get it. I'm just going to apply a little oil to these weight-bearing surfaces on the hinges. I had to put a paperboard shim between the door and the inside of this hinge, and behind both of these hinges. That's because it was rubbing up here at the top on this side a little bit, and now it's not. It's working very nice now.
Yay. Awesome.
This latch actually favors a little bit the high side of the striker plate in the frame. It actually looks a little close, but it doesn't hit. Now all that's left is to put that trim back on, and it's all done. So it's looking good. It works good. There's a slight squeak there. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.